A strange sound echoed across the ice. Sinbad turned, listening. It was getting louder, reverberating across the still snowscape. As Spike continued to bark, the ship's crew stopped working to see what was happening. Marina looked around too, and Spike jumped up near her. He was extremely agitated. Then, Marina saw something flying above the cliffs in the distance. It was getting closer, then disappearing again behind the ice. With a yelp, Spike bolted toward the stern. And then it happened. Crashing over the snowy cliff, a gigantic, terrifying bird of prey with lethal talons swooped down at Marina. It was the infamous Roc, fabled terror of all sailors, looking for prey. Shrieking, it dove toward the Chimera as Marina crouched down on the deck. At the stern, Sinbad ducked as the Roc soared over his head. Leaping to his feet, Sinbad shouted a warning to his crew on the ice. "Everyone, back on the ship!" Yelling, the sailors raced across the ice for the ship. Come on, Cale urged them. "Hurry!" Marina shouted. The Roc circled and then dove straight for the men, aiming for Jed, who was the last sailor on the ice. Just as the Roc's sharp talons were about to close on him, Jed dove into the icy water. The Roc circled the ship again, looking for a victim. Marina looked over the side to see Jed surface, gasping for air and fumbling for a hold on the ice. "Jed, grab the rope!" she yelled, throwing a rope overboard to him. Sinbad hauled Cale on board, just in time to see the Roc circling the boat again. "Rat, give me your hand!" Cale shouted. Glancing over to where Marina was helping Jed, Sinbad saw that the Roc was diving straight for her. "Marina!" he gasped. He raced across the deck. Marina turned and tried to run, but the Roc was right behind her. It reached one mighty talon forward and snatched her up. Sinbad dove for Marina, managed to grab her hand, and was dragged across the deck as the bird flew upward. But the Roc's hold was too strong. It pulled Marina out of Sinbad's grasp. He watched helplessly as Marina was carried away. The Roc streaked up, until it had reached its nearby eyrie. The nest sat at the top of a high, forbidding ice tower, a deeply carved path spiraling up to the pinnacle. The bird dropped Marina into its lair and landed beside her. Shrieking, it turned toward her. Marina tried to run, but the Roc's giant clawed foot came down over her. She squirmed desperately. Although her jacket was caught fast, she wiggled free. The giant bird stabbed down with its beak and then lifted its head in fury, shaking Marina's empty jacket and tossing it aside. Again, it slammed its talons down, but Marina was already on the run, darting behind the Roc, looking for somewhere to hide. She dove under a giant rib cage, obviously the remains of some previous meal. Not a good sign for her future. Screeching, the Roc turned and searched for Marina. She shrank back against the cage of bones, desperately trying to avoid the bird's sight. Down on the deck of the Chimera, Sinbad was busy tying sharp spikes onto his boots. "Hey, Rat, keep the blocks from seizing," he yelled. All they needed now was for the equipment to freeze up. "Aye, aye, Captain." "And Cale?" said Sinbad. "Aye." "Give me a hug," Sinbad said. He spread his arms wide, ignoring Cale's befuddled look. "Excuse me?" said Cale, backing away in shock as Sinbad started toward him. He grimaced as Sinbad wrapped his arms around him. In a flash, Sinbad pulled the two daggers from the sheaths on Cale's back. Grinning, he stepped back, brandishing the daggers. Said Cale, as he started to understand what Sinbad had in mind. With his foot, Sinbad flipped a shield up into his hands and deftly strapped it to his back. Then he turned and ran toward the prow, with Spike bounding after him. At the prow, Sinbad aimed a huge crossbow at the icy tower and took a deep breath. He whistled to Spike, who pulled the bone-handled lever that released the crossbow. The harpoon, laden with ice, shot up and out. A dagger between his teeth, Sinbad grabbed hold of the rope that was attached to the harpoon and was catapulted into the air toward the ice wall. Cale and the crew watched in amazement as their captain flew through the air. As the spear hit the massive block of ice, Sinbad released the rope and free fell toward the ice wall, stabbing into the ice with the spikes on both feet and the daggers in his hands. It was a hard landing. Sinbad turned and spat out a mouthful of snow.